business tax did not experience the turnaround it was anticipated in April, neither in New Jersey nor elsewhere. And we are reducing our forecast for the CBT in both fiscal year 2011 and fiscal year 2012. In the current year, we're projecting $2.2 billion, $190 million less than the governor's budget message. And for 2012, we now anticipate $2.33 billion, $253 million less than the governor's budget message. This loss of $443 million is more than offset by a remarkable development for the gross income tax. In a pattern that was evident in Washington and in the capitals of our sister states, April income tax payments for tax year 2010 far exceeded expectations. As a result, we've increased our income tax forecast to $10.7 billion this year, $634 million above the governor's budget message, and $11.34 billion, $812 million above GBM for fiscal year 2012. To summarize, over the 2 years, we expect $1.446 billion more from the income tax and $443 million less from the corporation business tax than was anticipated in the governor's budget message. A number of smaller differences, more down than up, reduce a total 2-year forecast for OLS that is $914 million higher than the governor's budget message.
Do you see this as having us out of the woods? And this ties in with the chairman mentioned that, some folks in California where they had 50% of their budget deficit evaporate with growth. Are these states that 2 weeks ago were in such dire financial shape, is this an indication that they're out of the woods, or simply a function of the volatility that we can expect from a reliance on taxes at this upper end of the spectrum?
As we've discussed frequently over many years, the income tax is highly volatile, and the graphs in my handout, I think, are pretty clear that we've had periods of growth and periods of decline. So I don't know how you, characterize.
That says it enough. I mean, we have to look at averages rather than momentary snapshots. And ultimately, we want to get to a point where we're just responsibly budgeting and looking at dependable revenues every year. I don't think there's anybody that feels that we're out of the woods. We should be off to the races.
We now expect our gross income tax and sales tax to generate $460 million and $72 million more, respectively, than we had expected at the time of the governor's budget message in February. At the same time, we are reducing our corporate business tax estimate by $213 million, and our other revenue sources are down $77 million. Including $100 million in additional projected lapses, we expect total resources to be $342 million above projections made at the time the 2011 budget was adjusted in February.
Is there any planning going on depending on the outcome of the Supreme Court decision for the school funding formula?
We await the decision just as you do, Mr. Chairman. I can't speculate as to what that decision will be, when it will come, or what, if any, remedy the court will impose in the event of an adverse decision. So there's no update from the last time I appeared before you and answered questions on this topic. We've set before you today and previously the governor's priorities. We think those are sound and appropriate priorities. We also believe that many of our colleagues in the legislature agree with those priorities. I would be reluctant to go further to speculate as to how we might have to adjust those priorities in the event of an adverse decision. But my previous comments were made, which is, we will obviously have to look at major program categories and identify options at that point.
Treasurer, what was the difference, if you remember, between what you projected and what OLS projected in March?
It was for 11, it was 71.8 million, and for 12, it was 53.3 million. So it's less than 1%.
And
difference today is, 188 this year and 214 for next year.
180 and 240?
Yeah. No. It's 187. Right, 0.7. 214.9 for a total of $402.6 million across 2 years. Yeah, and still less than 1%. Yeah.
It seems hard. Can you explain to me, Treasurer, how we could go from a $71 million difference with less information in fiscal year 2011 to $187 million difference when the revenues have now been accounted for the most part, and get a better, clear understanding? How can we be losing ground on what that difference is? Can you explain that?
Well, I think my opening statement, I attempted to lay out some of the technical reasons for our view. Again, we think that April results were pumped up, if you will, by several factors. One is that there was a series of floods last year that resulted in, I think, 12 or 13 counties having a delayed due date last year. And so that at the expense of April, increased May's relative revenues. And so therefore, I think it made the year-over-year increase in April larger than it otherwise might appear. We also believe that 2010, even the April results that we've seen, reflect this phenomenon of bringing income forward into 2010 in order to avoid the federal tax increase that didn't happen in the end, but it was scheduled, and the other factors I mentioned. So, again, at the end of the day, the differences are not that great. We just tend to take a cautious view of the circumstances. We're concerned. If you look at the first quarter, of withholding, year over year, in fact, this year was worse than last year.
We see that the high income earners in the state are doing well. I mean, you would agree with that? The majority of this increase in income was from the high income earners, was it not?
Yes, but they also suffered a larger than average diminution in income during the Great Recession.
I agree, but they are doing well. And we see that corporate profits, while underestimated, are up. Okay, they continue to go up. And I think the point that we need to look at, if we're going to focus on putting New Jerseyans back to work, and I think it was clear there's a 10-year history of President Bush's tax cuts, that this doesn't work. But would you not say that even the numbers we have before us today prove once again that simply reducing taxes on the upper income earners does nothing to stimulate jobs?
I couldn't disagree more.
But aren't our employment numbers basically flat from 16 months ago?
As I explained, the reason our employment numbers are relatively flat is largely attributable to the decline in public sector employment.
How much of an increase has there been in the private sector in jobs? There's been no noticeable increase in the private sector. I agree that reducing public sector workforce has gains in the long term. I have seen no noticeable increase in private sector job growth in the last 16 months.
Well, there's been an increase of about 19,000 jobs since January 1st, 2010.
So it's 19,000?
19,000. We've seen private sector jobs increase by 20,100 since last March. Private sector employment is now at its highest level since July of 2009. So we're clearly coming back. Is it as robust as all of us would like? No, of course not. But we have a long way to go, but we're on the right path. And we saw 3,600 private sector jobs were added in March. Those are the latest statistics that I have.